the equipment, the first thing, you do need to put on gloves and safety goggles. We're working with hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide, and you don't want to get that in your eyes. And make sure you wash your hands afterwards. So let's go over the equipment first that you'll be using, and then I'll run you through a test. So you're going to have two 400 milliliter beakers, rinse water. One is for if you're testing acid, and the other is if you're testing the base, so two. And I would set up on each side. So 1 to 2 people will be testing base, 1 to 2 people will be on the other side testing the acid. And you'll test the same material at the same time. The materials you'll be testing will be distilled water, soda water, milk, and milk of magnesia, or I abbreviated it MOM. You'll notice that these are graduated cylinders. They are 50 milliliter graduated cylinders. So you're going to use a total of 4. The beakers, 2 400 milliliter beakers. I do have an extra 150. That is so when you pour the distilled water into the graduated cylinder, you don't spill it. So I'm going to pour it from the gallon jug, and it doesn't matter on the amount. We're not measuring with the beakers. We're measuring with the graduated cylinders. So this is like a measuring cup. Okay. The last piece of glassware will be the 50 milliliter beakers, and this is what we're going to do our tests in. So I gave you 2 sets. That way, while you're finishing up one acid-base test, someone can be setting up the next test. And keep the cycle going until you've tested all 4. So that is the glassware. You have a wash bottle that has the deionized or the distilled water. You also have 2 dropper bottles, one that has the 0.1 molar sodium hydroxide, NaOH. So OH is a base ion, so this is what I'll use for the base. For the acid, HCl, and again 0.1 molar hydrochloric acid. Make sure you keep these separate. And finally, our pH probe or meter will look like this. Now, if you just stick it in like it is, it won't read anything. You have to take the little black cap off, okay? So I'm gonna put that aside, don't lose that cap. So once I take the meters out, I'm gonna put them aside, put them in my box, my tub. Okay, take the black cap off, and then I'll put it away. Okay, to start, we do need to clean these probes, okay? So in the rinse water beaker, you're gonna pour about 150 to 200 milliliters of water. This does not need to be exact, it's just to store the meters and something to hold over it so that when I rinse it, it collects what I'm rinsing off, okay? And I'll also have some paper towels because you'll gently dry off the paper towel. Do not put anything down under the tip. There's a little piece of glass. It's the bulb that reads. So to start this, you're going to turn on the meter. Do not hit hold, okay? And it'll be calibrated for you. So once you get it clean and dry, then you're ready to go. Now, in the directions, you're going to measure out 20 milliliters of whatever solution that you're measuring. So everyone will start off with distilled water. I'll give you some pipettes also. So you're going to fill up to 20 in the 50 milliliter graduated cylinder, our measuring cup. So I'm going to measure to 20, and remember to hold it so you can see the bottom of the meniscus. Okay, if you're looking at it down at an angle or up, it's going to be off. So 20. The one thing about measuring is if you over measure, don't pour it back in the container. That's a big no-no in chemistry. Always under measure, like 17, 18, and then add drop by drop until you get to 20 milliliters. Okay, so those are the solutions. So when I have my distilled water, I'm going to pour 20 into my acid beaker. I'll measure out another 20, and I will pour that in here, okay? And the nice thing is I can top it off with just my distilled water with this bottle. I don't need a pipette for that. I will for those other 3. So I've measured 20 and 20. Now I'm ready to test. So I'm going to get a baseline. Always get a baseline on every solution that you're testing. So I'm going to put the probe in here, or the meter, and I'm going to read it. It's going to keep jumping around because their ions are moving around the probe inside, the glass probe. So when it stops jumping around, record that value and record all the numbers. So like 7.57. So record that. Once you have your baseline or 0 drops, because I didn't add anything, then I'm going to start adding my either hydrochloric acid or sodium hydroxide. So I'm going to take my bag and I'm going to take my cap off and move the cap away from you. Don't flip it towards your face. And I want to put these aside because I need to put the cap back on when I'm done. So when you're done, you're going to add 5 drops. Hold it at an angle and drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Squeeze gently. Don't turn it upside down or it's going to squirt out and you have to start all over. So I'm going to add my 5 drops. I'm going to stir, let it sit, and read. So that's where 2 people on one side is helpful. So one person can be handling the drops, 5 at a time. The other person can hold the probe, stir, and read. Okay? If you want to lay it down each time, that's fine. Just put it on some paper towels and then you can go between, whatever you feel comfortable doing. Once you've reached a total of 30 drops, you're done with the test. And make sure you record at the end of every 5 drops on the pre-lab sheet, page 3 in your OneNote. So you can write it or you can type it as you go along because this meter does not store the pH. So I will have a total of 30 drops added of hydrochloric acid to this beaker of distilled water, a total of 30 drops of sodium hydroxide added to this beaker of distilled water. When I'm done with my test, then I'm going to take my probe. This has distilled water in it. I'm going to kind of swish it around and I'm going to let it sit in there. I'll do the same thing for this one until I'm ready to set it up again. I'll take my 2 beakers that has my solution to the sink and I'll turn the water on and then I will empty it and rinse, and then there'll be more distilled water. Pour in a little bit, swish it around and dump it. Okay? If you see anything sticking, you might need to wipe it out. Just be careful putting anything in the beaker. So I've done the distilled water. Now I'm going to go on to my next material, which would be maybe soda. I'd kind of go in order as the thicker they get, it makes it easier. So next I would do soda. I'll measure out 20 milliliters of soda. I poured in the base beaker, 20 milliliters of soda, poured in the acid beaker. And again, you can use those extra 2 while maybe someone's at the sink washing out those 2 beakers. So you need a baseline again. This time I need to rinse and dry in between the 2 tests. So swished it around, use my wash bottle to wash it, paper towel to dry it off, put it in, get my baseline, record that, and then I start adding my 5 drops at a time. I'll continue that process until I've tested all 4. When I'm done, the directions for cleanup are going to be in the back of the lab manual, and I will tell you exactly where that's located. And also pay attention when you're done and you've cleaned everything up, put it neatly back into the tub for the next class.